So after the parole hearing, we once again go on about life. Um, I began to live my life. Um, my sister does the same. We keep in contact with my brother. Now I'm of driving age. I can drive to him. I can see him whenever I want to see him. I can go pick him up if I want to pick him up. Things of that nature. Throughout our lives at that time, my brother started getting closer to graduating high school. Once he did graduate high school, my dad started to do little things that was controlling. I see it as controlling now. Back then, I thought it was like, okay, well, he just wants him to stay home. My brother got into all these schools, and my dad would not let him leave. It's like he didn't want him leaving him. Mind you, we ended up getting money from my mom when she passed. You know, there's insurance. So my money and my sister's money was put into a CD. My grandma was being responsible with it. My brother's money went to my dad. He was not being responsible with it. He did whatever he wanted to do with it. But the little controlling things was like keeping him home, having him go to school out there, a community college, when he could have been at a university. He was going to be going to, I want to say, UC Santa Barbara, straight out of high school, and my dad wouldn't allow it. He didn't want him leaving. At some point, my brother ended up moving in to my grandmother's house. I ended up moving back home with my grandmother as well. And it was great. Had, my brother there, was able to look after him. And then tragedy struck again. My younger sister was murdered. My sister that I'm talking about is also a stepsister, but, she was murdered. And when she was murdered in 2014, I was the one who called my dad to tell him that she was gone and that she was taken. I was also the one to identify her. So it's not like, when I'm telling you all this, it's not like my dad just was this evil person. He was my dad. He was my dad, I didn't see him as being an evil person. The things that my grandmother would tell us later on in life, it's like, I never saw that. I never saw that side of him like that. Not like that. I saw snippets of it, but as a child, you don't think anything of it. You're a child. It's like, I don't know. So when my sister was murdered, my dad and my brothers, my sister, my dad's whole family came over to my grandmother's house and, prayed. My grandmother comforted people. She bought food. And, she did what a normal Christian woman would do. She opened her home to grieving people, a family, her family. She felt as though that, we were family because my mother married this man. My mother had a son with this man. So, yes, family. Fast forward from 2014 to 2016. In 2016, I was working and I get a phone call from investigators. The investigator is asking if I have time to talk, and if so, when and where. I give him a time and a date, and they meet up with me. Upon meeting up with me, they ask me a few questions about my mom, about my stepdad, about everything. what I had testified to previously. And I answered them and I asked them, what was this all about? And they said, well, the person that's behind bars right now is claiming that he's innocent, and he put in an appeal, and his lawyers are working for the Innocence Project. So the Innocence Project was doing their job and asked that DNA be reran, because the DNA that they had back then did not get a match for anyone. And also, running things back then is not as good as it is now. We've advanced so much with DNA, or getting DNA evidence and running it and finding matches and stuff like that. Now everything and everyone pretty much has DNA in someone's system somewhere. Fingerprinting is in the system, especially if you're in healthcare, or you're an officer, anything like that. Even some of these jobs require that you give a swab. Some of them, when you send out your DNA for Ancestry.com or anything like that, guess what? The police can get that. They don't have to have your permission. You pretty much get that permission over. So they tell me this, like, yeah, he's petitioning the courts, and I'm like, okay. They asked me about a watch, and I'm like, I don't know anything about a watch. They asked me about my brother, and I'm like, I don't know where he was that night. He was young, so I don't think my older stepbrother, that's what I'm speaking about. I'm like, I don't know. And they say, okay, well, we're pretty sure this is going to be a dead end, so don't even worry about anything. I said, fine. That was in 2016. 2018 comes around, and the same investigators say, hey, remember when we met with you back in 2016 and we said nothing would come about this? And I'm like, yeah. Well, something else has come up. Do you mind if we meet? And I say, no problem. I have no problem with meeting you. They ask if my sister can be around, and I said, sure, I'll figure out when and where we can all meet, and I'll let you know something. Great. They meet at my house with me and my sister, and upon them coming into the house, they seemed a little excited, like they had some news. And I'm like, okay, what is this? They sit down, they say, so we're not sure if you guys knew this, but your mom had DNA on her and under her nails. So we're like, okay. On her left, she had DNA, and on her right, she had a different DNA, and she also had DNA on her pants that did not belong to her. Okay. On her left hand, under her nails, we found the DNA of your cousin Joaquin. Immediately, my sister and I get upset and begin to cry. And they ask, why are you guys upset? Why are you crying? And we looked at him, and it's like we both said it pretty much at the same time. We said, my dad did it.